say something? We all have reasons why we choose to ignore the things that give us pause, that seem out of place, that don't feel right. The word why can either paralyze us or empower us to stand up and protect what we love. So if you see something, why do you say something?
I see safe for my family.
I see safe for my friends.
I see say for my students.
We see say for each other.
I see say because all of this matters.
We all have something worth protecting, a why that unifies this community we're all a part of. So protect your everyday. Report suspicious activity to local authorities. If you see something, say something.
Live from the Hoopy Insurance Services Studios, this is WKJG 1380 AM, 100.9 FM, The Fan, Fort Wayne, Indiana. This is a presentation of high school sports on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. The Hoopy Fieldhouse High School Coaches Show. Learn more about the Hoopy Fieldhouse, now available to schedule practice times for your league or team at hoopyfieldhouse.com. Now here's your host, Justin Kenny.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome into the High School Coaches Show presented by Hoopy Fieldhouse. Talking state championship games tonight. Thanksgiving weekend, traditionally, of course, state finals, and we have a lot of area representation. We're going to break it down all night tonight from now until 7 o'clock. We'll talk to Coach Michael Mosier, Adams Central Flying Jets, here in just a couple seconds as he looks forward to prepping his team for a rematch with Indianapolis Lutheran coming up on Friday morning to kick off the state championship games over the weekend in Indianapolis. We'll also talk to Dan Vance of OutsideTheHuddle.net, get a little deeper into each of these three matchups coming up this weekend involving area teams. Be Kurt Tipman at the bottom of the hour, talk Snider and Decatur Central, and we'll wrap it up with head coach Kyle Lindsay of the Bishop Luers Knights as his team preps for North Posey coming up in the early game, the 11 o'clock start on Saturday down at Lucas Oil Stadium. Plenty to get to, and we're going to jump right into it. Head coach Michael Mosier of the Adams Central Flying Jets on with us right now. Evening, Coach.
Hi, how are you doing?
Doing well, Coach. Congratulations on another trip down to Indianapolis. I guess before we start talking about this week, wanted to look back at last week. And North Judson really challenged your guys in that first half in particular. And I have to imagine you were glad both, I guess, to face the adversity and also how your guys performed.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem that we had was our kickoff, and we've talked about that all week. You know, we had guys on there that we felt did a really good job and deserved to be on there, and just kind of had some breakdowns. And North Judson really 3 times in a row when we kicked off had some big long returns, and that just gave them some excellent field position, and they were able to punch it in, and it did. It made us fight through some adversity, and it was reminiscent of me of the little bit of the Madison Grant game where the same thing kind of happened, and we kind of made some mistakes and gave them field position, and North Judson took advantage of that. They have a very solid team. They have some great kids on that team. Their quarterback, number 5, was outstanding, and we just can't do that this week. You know, we kind of came out and did a good job offensively, but we got to do a much better job special teams. I mean, if we're going to beat Lutheran all around, all 3 facets of the game have to be our best.
How much do you, I guess, maybe appreciate having this adversity in order to kind of refocus the guys and say, hey, you know, we're by no means guaranteed to win these games, talking about the last couple weeks, and now you get to face the nemesis of Indianapolis Lutheran.
Yeah, it definitely helps. You know, you can't learn that much if you're just going to be blowing out people each week. You know, we fought through adversity throughout the tournament, and it's been a great character builder for us. And you know, we've had to really work hard at fixing things during the game itself, and pulling the guys together. And I'm really proud of how these guys have hung together during those moments. You know, they struggled a bit against Bluffton earlier, and we didn't come out like we wanted to, and they kind of didn't panic, and they got things together in the second half, and they did that really throughout this tournament. South Adams jumped on us first. They scored first, and we had to fix things and come back. And I think it'll be beneficial to us. If Lutheran gets ahead, it's not going to be something that we're not used to, and we just have to buckle down and keep fixing things and get things done.
Coach, in preparation for Indianapolis Lutheran, I guess how much needs to be said to your kids and how much remains unsaid that they understand in terms of what you're facing?
Well, they definitely understand what we're facing. There's no question. We don't have to talk about that. They definitely know that we have to play our best to beat them. And a team that doesn't have many weaknesses, if any weaknesses at all. So, we have to play our best. It's strange. We're playing a team, 2 years in a row, so we know a little bit about them, but what we don't know is what they're going to do that's different, than what they've done in the past. So those are the things that we're really trying to focus on and things that we know they're going to do and try to anticipate things that they don't. But it's good for our kids to know our opponent. I think they know them well, and we'll see if that benefits us. Who knows?
When you look back at the previous two matchups with them, Coach, are there things you can point to that say this is what we did wrong or have to do better this time around?
Yeah, we can't turn the ball over and we can't make mistakes. There were several times where we missed blocks that we needed to, or we missed a coverage here and there, and I think mistakes really kind of turned the momentum in the game, and we can't let that happen. We have to play a solid game. We can't have turnovers. We can't have penalties. We can't have drives that kind of peter out towards the end. We have to finish things. We know that they're a high-powered offense, and you're not going to be able to stop them all the time. But hopefully, our offense is gelling and clicking, and we can get going. And I think ultimately, what we didn't do well the last couple of years is pass the ball, and that's something that if we want to win, we're going to have to really do the run game and the pass game in tandem, and we got to be able to be successful at it.
Coach Michael Mosier of the Adams Central Flying Jets joining us here on the High School Coaches Show. And Coach, some familiar names in terms of the leaders for Lutheran. Braden Hall, you played last year. Jackson Willis as well. Yep. It's some of the same names, but I imagine you can't treat it as the exact same team you're about to face.
No, it's different. They lost some really good players from last year's team, just like we did, but they also have some players that are coming back. And one thing that I think that they are noted for, if you watch them on film, they have size. I think we're a pretty good sized team, not compared to them. They have some real big guys, both on offense and defense, and so we're going to have to really utilize that as best as we can. It's going to take some work, but we just have to be able to take advantage of what they give us and be able to find a way to block those big guys up the middle.
When you look at defending Lutheran, and you guys have had experience trying to do it the last couple years, what are the principles? What are the focuses when you're trying to slow down an offense like this?
Well, I wish I had the answer to that, right? It's a tough challenge. I mean, they have really good receivers, and they have Willis is a great quarterback, and they're good up front. So, what we have to be able to do is we're just going to have to take them out of their game a bit. We're going to have to keep them guessing as much as possible as well. We can't just simply sit in a formation and or a set and they pick us apart. So we're going to have to keep them guessing. We're going to have to keep moving and shifting around to get into the coverage we want. That's what we're going to have to do. I would imagine that it's hard to can't really stop Willis from throwing quick passes, but we can't let him have all time, all day to sit back there and pick us apart. So we are going to have to get him rushed as much as possible.
I've asked you this before, Coach, over the course of the season, and now we're here in terms of the things that you've done over the course of the season to prepare for a potential third round with Indianapolis Lutheran. Take us through maybe the process of making sure you're not looking ahead, but also dabbling in some things that are going to be very important this weekend.
Well, we've all said this as coaches. We came into the season knowing that if we're gonna have a chance to beat Lutheran, we are going to have to open it up. We can't just rely on our run game. If we can get down there and our run game goes, and I'm going to be really excited about that. But we know that we're going to have to pass the ball, and so we have worked hard on that all year long. I think we have a really good receiving crew. I think Jack has done an outstanding job. at throwing the ball when we need to. And so that's a big key, I think, to this game. We have to, if we're going to win and sustain drives, we're going to have to throw the ball.
I have to feel, Coach, you want to be able to throw the ball in non-obvious passing downs.
Yeah, exactly. That's the tough part. That's something that we talk about. It's easy to say, okay, it's 3rd and 10, we're going to have to throw. But,
yeah,
it's those first down, second down plays and that's hard for us. That really is hard. We're so prone to run. So to throw some play action on first and second down is really tough. But it's something that we're going to have to really look at. Our hope is that as conservative as we sometimes are, that we can maybe break through our shell a little bit and hopefully open it up and be a little. I think we're going to have to be aggressive in order to beat them offensively, and we'll see if that happens.
Coach, wanted to pinpoint some guys on defense. We talk so much about the usual suspects and Keegan Bloom and guys, but that junior class, when you look at Max Keir and Matt Heiser and Jarrett Smith, I mean, these guys have really stepped up big time for you this junior class.
Yeah, they have. I mean, they have done a great job. They have done what we've asked them to do. I mean, Max Carr is, he's our leading tackler on the team, and I would not have thought that going into the season, but he has been able to get to people. He's been able to move well. Even Jarrett Smith, who did not start, but he really came on in the season in our secondary and has just worked his tail off. And we can't get to where we are without the young kids. I think back to the first year that we went 2 years ago, where these kids that are seniors now were sophomores. How important were they for us to get there? Extremely. They were juniors last year. And so yeah, we have a good senior class, but, we can't be where we are without our young kids. That's somebody like Cam Fravel as well is just a sophomore. He has had an outstanding year at defensive end for us. And we need these guys to step up in a big way.
Coach, when you look at it now, 3rd straight year, does it have a different feel than a couple years ago when you guys got there first time in 20-plus years, and then last year? Does it still feel the same as it did a couple years ago? Is it a different approach? Is it a different mentality?
I think it's different. I think it's different. I can't quite describe the difference in it. It's not the first year, and it's not last year. So, there is some familiarity with it, which is strange to say. I mean, it's a little bit surreal for us to be in that predicament, but it is a little bit different. I can't quite describe it, but there is a familiarity to it, and hopefully the familiarity of it can, sink into our kids, and the wow factor isn't as much there, that we can calm down and play hard.
Coach, when you look at what you have coming up this week and playing that first game on Friday, how do you approach that? Because the day before is Thanksgiving. Do you head down night before? Do you go down day of? How do you make sure the guys are ready to play?
We go to day of. Tomorrow we're going to practice down in Indy, and we chose the early slot because it's just going to kind of gets us in the right frame of mind. So we're getting up at 6. We're leaving here at the school at 6:30, going down there and practice at 10. So that gives us a kind of a precursor of what we're going to do on Friday. We'll get up and we'll leave at 6:30 and call it a day. I just don't want to take 67 kids and put them in a hotel. That's a nightmare for me waiting to happen. So that's kind of what we've done the last 2 years, and it really has worked. I don't think it's been a detriment.
Last question for you: how much can you enjoy Thanksgiving dinner with a state championship game coming up the day after?
It's very hard.
I'm sure.
It's very hard. I thought last year was a little bit better. I could enjoy Thanksgiving a little bit more since it was on Saturday. But,
right.
Our first trip there, it was really hard to focus. But we are going to do some family things and enjoy that and get ready to play.
All right, Coach. I appreciate the time. Thanks a lot. Congratulations again, reaching the 1A state championship game, and we'll see what happens on Friday morning.
Yep, thanks.
That was Coach Michael Mosier, Adams Central Flying Jets. Round 3 between Adams Central and Indianapolis Lutheran coming up at Lucas Oil Stadium on Friday. Kickoff will be at 11 a.m. You can hear the game right here on 1380 The Fan, 100.9 FM. It'll be Brett Rump and myself on the call from Lucas Oil Stadium, and we'll have all the action as Adams Central looks to win its second ever state championship, the first coming in 2000. And now the third straight trip to the state championship. Join us to break down some of these state games. Kurt Tipman and Kyle Lindsay a little bit later as we're previewing a trio of teams heading to Lucas Oil Stadium this weekend from the area to battle for state championships. You're listening to the High School Coaches Show here presented by Hoopie Fieldhouse, 1380 The Fan, 100.9 FM.
Many of you are aware of Hoopie Insurance Services' loyalty and support for local sports and youth leagues. But did you realize the Hoopie commitment to sports includes a turfed indoor practice facility? Tucked away off Stellhorn Road between Maple Crest and Laymeyer is the Hoopie Fieldhouse, a great facility for indoor practices when Mother Nature is having a bad day. With 6,500 square feet of artificial surface, it's perfect for baseball, softball, soccer, and football. For a team, a league, or even a small group, the Hoopie Fieldhouse is available at just $50 an hour. Pitching, fielding, hitting. And it's the ideal spot when you can't take a chance on the weather, like tryouts or pregame prep. Youth football, little leagues, youth soccer. The Hoopie Fieldhouse can be your indoor practice home. Join now at just $50 an hour and get your times booked before it's too late. The Hoopie Fieldhouse, owned and managed by Hoopie Insurance Services. Get info and book times at HoopieFieldhouse.com. That's Hoopie, H-U-P-E, Fieldhouse.com.
Right now on My Deals Fort Wayne, get 2 laser tag games for 2 for just $24.84 at UltraZone Family Entertainment. UltraZone Family Entertainment has served the Fort Wayne area with some of the finest advanced laser tag systems and the latest arcade games since it opens its doors back in 1995. The multi-level state-of-the-art laser tag battlefield is great for adrenaline-filled afternoons, birthday parties, and private events. Head over to MyDealsFortWayne.com to get your offer today.
Mama, what does the chicken say?
Chicken. Oh, okay.
And wolf?
Oh, a wolf.
Ooh! What about the tiny dog? Cat? Owl? Dolphin? What does the turkey say? Whale?
Whale, so...
Do the giraffe.
Giraffe, really? Okay. Giraffe.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right.
Visit NHTSA.gov/the right seat.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
If you're a veteran looking to file for your service-connected benefits through the Department of Veterans Affairs, don't go it alone. AMVET's highly trained service officers stand ready to walk you through the process at VA regional offices around the country, helping you to navigate the complex VA system free of charge. With new presumptions for Agent Orange exposure and other conditions, AMVETS can offer you the advice you need to finally receive all your earned benefits. In 2009 alone, AMVETS helped process more than 65,000 claims and appeals, securing more than $410 million in benefits. To find your nearest AMVETS service officer or to learn more, visit AMVETS.org.
Welcome back to the Hoopie Fieldhouse High School Coaches Show on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.
Welcome back, everybody. A special Tuesday night edition of the High School Coaches Show. We'll give way to the pregame show for Purdue basketball at the top of the hour. Boilermakers and Tennessee tonight from the Maui Invitational. See if the Boilers can make it 2 big wins in 2 nights. Last night, Gonzaga. Tonight, taking on Tennessee. But enough basketball talk. We'll do plenty of that probably starting next week when we start talking basketball and high school basketball in the area. And a guy that knows a lot of high school basketball in the area and some football as well. Dan Vance of OutsideTheHuddle.net. Evening, Dan.
Hey, how's it going, Justin?
Doing well. I'm sure you're excited. Boys basketball season getting started this week. We have DeKalb Northrop tonight.
Yeah, a lot of good games tonight. DeKalb Northrop, East Noble at West Noble tonight, and some good ones. Woodland, New Haven tomorrow night. So a lot of really good games to jumpstart the boys basketball season. And
I know you're excited, but we'll get to basketball here in the next couple weeks, but still talking football here with 3 area high schools competing for state championships this weekend. You know, go back to August and we were talking and who has a chance to go, and we all agreed at Adams Central. But if you looked at Snider, looked at Bishop Luers, especially Bishop Luers after those first 2 weeks of the season, you would have said there's no way. But here we are, Panthers, Knights, and Adams Central, 3 blue bloods representing the area in the state championship game.
Yeah, I'll have to give both you and I a little credit. I think we both did say that Snider was probably the next team up. If we expected anybody to go, it doesn't necessarily mean we expected Snider to be in the state finals. But I think that in the early season and maybe even the preseason, I think that they were definitely the number 2 team. Adams Central, not a shock. I think we've been saying it for weeks. Everybody's been saying it for weeks. Let's just get to Adams Central and Indianapolis Lutheran. But you play the games for a reason, and Adams Central has definitely earned their way. So to have 3 teams is great. It's been a while since there has had 3 teams representing during state weekend. So I'm really excited about the weekend ahead.
Let's start with Adams Central. 2 years ago, it was a really good back-and-forth game with Lutheran. Fell short by 6 points. Last year, it was a little more lopsided, 30-13. Third time, can it be a charm for Adams Central heading in to play Lutheran? Some familiar names, familiar faces for Lutheran when you look at behind center with Jackson Willis, who killed Adams Central last year, Braden Hall as well. Can Adams Central figure out a way to knock off the Saints this year?
Well, you'd have to hope that they've learned quite a bit. Again, a chance to go against them back-to-back years. And when you mentioned those guys, Jackson Willis, you have to be able to really pick him apart. And so it comes down to, a lot of game planning. This is a kid who's thrown 27 touchdowns this year, only 3 interceptions, another 2,000-yard passing season. Braden Hall has run for almost 2,000 yards, has run for 31 touchdowns. You know what the weapons are. What adjustments has Adams Central been able to make? And, how much has that been in Coach Michael Moser's head for, 2 years now? They knew that this was a likely matchup. They have to make adjustments. But to me, I think Adams Central's biggest adjustments have to come on offense. You have to be able to be more versatile. They went to the state championship game the last 2 years, a little bit of a passing game, but really not enough. When you looked at it, Lutheran was able to shut down the run enough that it wasn't very effective or very efficient for Adams Central compared to what they did leading up to the state finals both of those 2 years. Can Adams Central change things up? Can their schemes get a little bit different? Jack Hamilton's had a great year throwing the ball, but he still doesn't throw it very much. So you have to be able to pick, another team apart when you're not used to passing the ball that much, and you have to stay away from Davon Jones, the cornerback for Lutheran's got 6 interceptions on the year. I would say he's probably going to be on Ryan Tester, who's the favorite target of the Adams Central passing game. So it comes down to the adjustments and being willing to get outside your comfort zone a little bit. And I think that's what we're looking to see with Adams Central. I think that they've aimed that way with how they've played the rest of the season, that they're going to be a little more diverse in their offense. But, you get out there on that big field, and do you just revert back to, the comfortable run the ball, which they do with great success, or are you able to mix it up and learn from those last 2 losses to Lutheran?
Yeah, Davon Jones, a standout on both sides of the ball. Javaria Cooper as well for Indianapolis Lutheran. And we talked to Coach Michael Mosier to start off the show, and he mentioned the passing game and how much more they've passed this year by Adams Central standards. And he says one of the big things will be Friday morning is passing on non-obvious passing downs. It's not where they're going to, they're throwing because it's 3rd and long. It's mixing those things in 1st and 2nd down to try to have some success in that. You mentioned Trevor Curry and Ryan Tester between the 2 17 touchdown receptions and who gets the assignments on those guys. But I think defensively is still where this game is going to be won and lost for Adams Central, giving up too many yardage and too many points the last 2 years, 34 2 years ago, 30 last year. I don't think Adams Central can win a game that in which both teams score in the 30s. I think 30 is that magic number. If you can keep it within that, under that, you have a chance to beat Lutheran. But how big is it going to of a task is it going to be, considering, and Coach Mosier said it, just how humongous Indianapolis Lutheran is in the trenches?
Yeah, I mean, it's very tough. You're not going to be able to get at Jackson Willis very easily. You're going to have to get through that line and get through that front line, that offensive line of Lutheran that's huge, to get to a Braden Hall. And you don't normally see teams at any level, especially in 1A, that have a 2,000-yard passer and a 2,000-yard rusher. They can hurt you in a lot of different ways. It's not going to be an easy task, but, it's got to be one I think Adams Central has to feel more prepared for. This is the 3rd straight year. And also, this Adams Central team has played with a chip on their shoulder, has played with a chip of, hey, maybe we deserve more recognition just because it's expected doesn't mean we shouldn't get recognition. And also at the same time, I don't know that this Adams Central team is necessarily as good, even on paper, as the last two Adams Central teams, but they play with such a passion and an aggression that I think that they could be a difference maker just because of that. I think that sometimes, that extra will and extra spirit does help.
Dan, looking ahead to the Class 5A game with Snider coming up on Friday night, it'll be Snider and Decatur Central. And the Panthers were very impressive last Friday in knocking off Maryville, that shutout 28-0. And now they take on a Decatur Central team that just has 2 losses on the season to Whiteland and Martinsville. It's a team that is very, very run heavy and mixes in some pass when they need to. But looking on paper, it just kind of fits the strength of Snider in defending the run and maybe not a prolific passer, but a guy that's going to be forced to go to the air when he needs to. Do you agree in terms of this, at least on paper, looking like advantage Panthers?
Yeah, I really do, and I think that the experience of this team plays a big part too. And, there are a lot of guys who are stepping into major roles for Snider, have stepped into major roles for the first time as varsity players, but they've gained valuable experience. And you still have a relatively young Decatur Central at some spots. Bo Polston, the quarterback, has had a really solid year, but only a sophomore. So a big stage, you got to wonder what that's going to do to him. Napo Dodo, the running back, has had 4 100-yard games, still a junior, where you're looking at a really heavy Snider senior team or a team full of Panthers that has had the experience. So if Snider can play a complete game, and that's what we said, a lot of people said going into last week against Maryville, Snider has to play a complete game to be able to beat Maryville. They did in impressive fashion. If Snider plays a complete game again, I definitely give them the advantage.
You just wanted to say Npo Dodo, didn't you?
I did. I probably butchered it, but,
It looks like Npo Dodo. I assume that's what it is, but leading rusher for Decatur Central. Dan, we have a game coming up on Saturday between Bishop Luers and North Posey as the Knights return to the state championship game. First time since 2020, looking for their first state championship since 2012. They'll take on a North Posey team that's relatively new to this experience. They are here for just the second time and first time since 2005. We looked at it and thought LCC, a complete team, they were going to be able to come in and challenge Bishop Luers in ways that they hadn't since maybe the regular season in the SAC. Turns out it was the LCC that couldn't match up. Bishop Luers shut them out for the majority of the game and won 28-7. How surprising was that win in your mind by Bishop Luers? And now, is it tough to bet against them at this point?
I think it was a surprising win in a lot of ways just because LCC was so good all year at moving the ball through the air. And we're seeing more and more Luers be able to win important battles defensively. So it was a little bit of a surprise. Can you bet against them? You run into another tough opponent that's a little bit different. You're talking about 3 guys on this team that have either run for 1,000 or nearly 1,000 yards, including quarterback Liam Stone. So, talk about run heavy in a game that has to be one of the trenches when you're looking at Jed Galvin, who's a 1,200-yard rusher, and Colton Gardner, who's almost at 1,000 yards, and Stone, who's almost at 1,000 yards. This team runs a lot. They score a lot of touchdowns on the ground. Those 3 alone have totaled 54 touchdowns rushing this year. That's a lot of groundwork. And so you're looking at guys who are going to be able to make big first contact, guys that are going to be able to come off at the end, guys like Damian Jackson, and how they can alter the game for Luers in the trenches, on the ground. A team, North Posey, can go to the air, but Luers is really going to have to win that first, second effort on the ground. It's a tough matchup, but their defense has answered the bell through this postseason.
Before I let you go, Dan, how much does experience help in this respect? You look at Adams Central back for the 3rd time in as many years. Yes, it's been a couple years for Luers, but the coaching staff has been there. Same with Snider. Is when you're approaching this week, particularly with how wacky the week is with Thanksgiving smack dab in the middle of it, how much does experience help? Maybe not just with the roster like Adams Central, but also coaches and knowing how to handle this week.
I think it's huge, and I'll say it for this reason. Justin, you and I both covered a lot of state finals. I've been down on the field when teams are getting ready to come out of the tunnel in state finals. I will not name any names, but I can tell you I've covered games where you look at players and coaches in the tunnel, and you hate to see it, you hate to say it, But when you're in the situation and you have three coaches, first of all, and, forget about the players, but you have three coaches that have been there, have been to this point in the last decade. Obviously, Adams Central the last 2 years. Luers was just there in 2020. Some of these kids on this team, were able to take the field for that game as well. So experience, I think, is huge because that initial wow, if you've never been on the field level at Lucas Oil, it's a wowing factor. I'm the basketball guy, but I walk out on that field, and it's more of a wow factor than walking onto a state finals court at Gainbridge Fieldhouse to me because it's so bright, it's so big, it's so overwhelming. So to have been in that moment before, I think, is a major advantage.
Yeah, it's a great point in terms of handling the moment and having a veteran coach that's been in that experience and being able to know how to handle it with his players. Definitely. Dan, I appreciate it, buddy. Thanks a lot for the insight. Have a great Thanksgiving. We'll catch up to you. We'll talk basketball one of these nights.
Hey, sounds good. I like it. That
was Dan Vance outside the Huddle.net joining us here as he does most weeks talking area high school football. We're going to take a break, come back. Coach Kurt Tippmann, Snider Panthers, will join us after the break. It's the High School Coaches Show presented by Hoopie Fieldhouse, 1380 The Fan, 100.9 FM.
Many of you are aware of Hoopie Insurance Services loyalty and support for local sports and youth leagues. But did you realize the Hoopie commitment to sports includes a turfed indoor practice facility? Tucked away off Stellhorn Road between Maplecrest and Laymeyer is the Hoopie Fieldhouse, a great facility for indoor practices when Mother Nature is having a bad day. With 6,500 square feet of artificial surface, it's perfect for baseball, softball, soccer, and football. For a team, a league, or even a small group, the Hoopie Fieldhouse is available at just $50 an hour. Pitching, fielding, hitting. And it's the ideal spot when you can't take a chance on the weather, like tryouts or pregame prep. Youth football, little leagues, youth soccer. The Hoopie Fieldhouse can be your indoor practice home. Join now at just $50 an hour and get your times booked before it's too late. The Hoopie Fieldhouse, owned and managed by Hoopie Insurance Services. Get info and book times at HoopieFieldhouse.com. That's Hoopie, H-U-P-E, Fieldhouse.com.
Right now, the forgotten poor are waiting for healing and care, for life-saving medical care, for a chance to live with dignity and hope. They are waiting for Mercy Ships and you. Mercy Ships is the largest floating civilian hospital in the world, with volunteer medical staff and crew who donate their time to save lives. And now, as our newest state-of-the-art hospital ship sets sail, Mercy Ships will double our ability to reach children and adults who need us now.
Without the work of Mercy Ships, these patients don't have another option.
Mercy Ships is answering the call to serve suffering people who have nowhere else to turn. Together, we are going to some of the world's most desperate places and bringing a wave of hope and healing to those who need it most.
Thank you. Thank you.
To learn more about this wave of hope, go to mercyships.org today.
This is the Hoopie Fieldhouse High School Coaches Show on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.
Welcome back, everybody, to a special state championship game edition of the High School Coaches Show here on a Tuesday evening. Hopefully you're having a good Thanksgiving week so far. 3 area teams playing for state championships this weekend down at Lucas Oil Stadium. We talked to head coach Michael Mosier of the Adams Central Flying Jets. Now talking Class 5A football with the Snider head coach Kurt Tippmann. Evening, Coach.
Good evening.
Coach, congratulations. A trip to Lucas Oil Stadium. People say, well, the Snider Panthers made it look easy last Friday, but anything but. What were the keys going into that one against Maryville, and how were you guys able to execute, particularly defensively?
Well, it certainly wasn't easy. I think we've played 2 really, really, really good teams the last 2 weeks. Executed at a high level, played physical, well coached, good players, athletic, 2 really good teams. But for them, number one, we had to find a way to block their defensive front, which really talented, big, overpowering. And as the game continued to go, I think, we were able to wear more and more on them, and, more things were available. But, those first couple drives, they were knocking our guys off the ball and, really tough to block. But that's kind of the way our guys have been, That's what we encountered week 1 at the beginning of the season. just probably a more talented defensive line that the more we went at them, the more that we're able to wear on them, and the run game was, starting to open up. And, that was the big thing. And then defensively, just had to be really sound, because the zone scheme that they deploy, they find a hole, a little gap, and boom, that guy's going to jet through it. And same thing with some of the play-action passes. They have very capable wide receivers, but we were able to play good coverage, and we just played sound. We didn't do anything spectacular, but we didn't get ourselves out of position where they could capitalize and, gain big yards.
I think a great example of that, really all season, is Lucas Rohrbacher, because he just always seems to be in the right place at the right time. It's nothing spectacular. He always fills his gaps. He's always there to make a sure tackle, and he was big for you at that second level on Friday.
Oh, he played tremendous. And, he's kind of been on a roll here. He was a terror on Friday night. He was in another zone and played at another level that, really makes our defense play well. But he's got the athleticism to get to the ball. He's so fast and explosive. And then coupled with, being disciplined with his eyes and reading what he needed to read, would take him to the ball. And then when he gets there, he's a load, and he's just physical. He plays violent. He's very explosive, and, whatever he hits kind of goes the other way. And, he's a difference maker on the defensive side of the ball for sure.
Somebody else that's developed into a difference maker on the edge, Adam Blakey. He had a great game on Friday. How have you seen the development of the junior over the course of the season?
He gets better every week. He's the consummate worker. He's the kind of kid that's his own critic. He's his biggest critic is himself, and just continues to want to get better and want to be coached, and asking what can I do to get better at this, help me with this. He just gets better every week, and I think he continues to grow too. He seems like he's probably 15 pounds bigger than when the season started. He's growing taller, continues to lift in the weight room and gets bigger. But yeah, he played well. He's got a unique knack of getting his hands on the ball, in the passing game, knocking down some balls and deflected passes. He did that again Friday night in a big situation, and it's proved beneficial to our defense.
Coach Kurt Tippmann, Snider Panthers, joining us this evening on the High School Coaches Show. And Kieron Billingsley, your QB1, was very good again on Friday. And I know people may look at his rushing stats and say, well, it's not too crazy. But, man, he's just such a different element when he's outside of the pocket. And just like when he's running the zone read and making those right decisions, it just seems once he's able to get out in the open field, he can make some things happen. And that was proven again on Friday.
Well, you and I talked last week that he was going to have to be a big part of the game plan. And he does. He brings a different element. And, again, we have not, necessarily utilized that in every game. He's not a very big guy. He's a point guard on the basketball team. He's not a huge guy in stature, and we just couldn't afford for him to take a bunch of hits. But you get to the playoffs, and, it's do or die, and you got to go with, fully loaded, so to speak. And, as he carries the ball, he sees things well. He's just natural. He directs things. Being a three-sport athlete, he just kind of, he has a great feel for things and goes in the right places. You just don't teach that stuff. It's just natural for him, and makes plays with his feet and made plays with his arm, too. Gets out of the pocket and finds open guys. The pass to the tight end for 80 yards was huge. Another deep pass to Austin Ganaway was huge. And, he just has a knack for finding those, getting the ball where it needs to go. And he has been, probably the biggest, not surprise, but addition to the offense that, we weren't sure about at the beginning of the year because he only played sparingly at quarterback last year. But, the quarterback has to be a guy. If you're going to have a good team, if you're going to make a run, you got to have a quarterback that makes plays. And he has certainly done that. And, we're going to need him again Friday night.
Coach, when you look at the opponent, Decatur Central, when you've started studying the Hawks, what have you seen?
Well, they're they're very similar to the Snider Panthers in a lot of ways. They run the ball very well. Different than us, they kind of have a four-pronged attack. They have four guys that carry the ball and all do a really good job. Their offense, they utilize three different running backs, and kind of distribute the ball equally to them. There's one guy, number 11, that has more yards than anybody else, but they're all really, really talented. There's one more big physical guy that gets kind of the tough short yardage and does a lot of the blocking. And then the quarterback is a viable running threat. He's a big guy, but very athletic, and, they use some scheme where they directly, involve him in the run game. And so kind of hard to defend with four different options in any certain time of who can run the ball. And their offensive line, they have kind of a combination of size, but then also some quickness at the guard spots where they're able to get to you and get on the second level quickly. And they, have a kind of scheme where they pull those guys a lot. And then they have athletic receivers, similar to what you'd see in the SAC, guys that can catch it and score anytime they touch it. And, a very capable quarterback. Guy's got a cannon for an arm. He's still young, but he throws it very well, can make all the throws, gets out of the pocket, makes throws. So, a lot of stuff on offense that are tough to defend. And then defensively, big up front, and two really good inside linebackers that are tough to block and are, big and physical and run downhill and fill gaps. And then, athleticism in the secondary. So, tough to get open in coverage. And they're sound in their coverages. So, and then a good kicker. I got a kicker that kicked a 50-plus yard field goal this year. So, good as you would expect in a state championship game. Well-rounded, well-coached, talented, and playing their best football this time of year.
Coach, when you look at in terms of preparing this week and how you approach the week, and you've been through this experience multiple times, do you have a set plan when you approach the week? Okay, or state finals week, this is how we're going to do it, or it's every week, every year kind of different? How do you approach the craziness of this week?
Well, it's craziness, and that's probably the biggest challenge, is to handle the craziness, because essentially the week is entirely different than any week that you've had in the 14 games so far. I mean, school schedule is different because, the kids are out of school after today. The practice is different. You're not just walking out of the locker room practicing on your practice field. You're traveling to Indianapolis. There's just everything about the week is different. But what can't be different is what you have to do in preparation and what the players and the team go through each week in the playoffs to prepare to play better on Friday night. That has to be accomplished during this, unusual and crazy week filled with distractions and differences. And so that's been our message. And, yeah, like where we want to practice inside, that comes differently, in the years that we've played in the state championship game, just to, based upon availability. And what can we get into, and who else is using those spaces? And, when the semi-state week rolled around, there were 4 local teams that were, vying for spots of where to practice the next week, because you have to practice inside to get used to the inside air, getting ready for Lucas Oil Stadium and, things like that. So we have probably a basic premise that we like to do that we think has worked, but there's also a lot of other factors that go into it, and we just have to adjust the best that we can. But the whole goal is to accomplish the preparation that's necessary to play your best on Friday. And, you got to do everything you can to make sure that preparation is in place.
Any advantage in the sense of still playing on Friday night as opposed to during the day or on Saturday or anything, or is that kind of a wash with the way the rest of the week goes?
Well, we've done both. We've played it on Friday night, Saturday night. I think Friday morning would be tougher just because it's a short week. We have a routine on Friday that we like to do during the playoffs, especially days that you don't have school, that I think kids are used to. But if you're playing Friday morning, like Adams Central, it doesn't seem to have bothered them because they keep going back to the state championship. But you got to get used to, and you got to, make the best of it. when it's on Saturday night, I think you really did feel the extra day, and the day of preparation, which we would value greatly. But it is what it is, and you got to find a way to get all the things done that you need to do to be ready to go.
Coach, I appreciate the time. Thanks a lot. I know it's a crazy week, so thanks a lot for taking some time, and good luck Friday night.
Well, this is probably the last coaches show of the year, so thank you for all that you do and all the times that you've had us on, and all the other coaches. You guys do a great job promoting high school football in the area. We are so lucky, visiting with teams from Indianapolis, and, even in our playoffs, nobody gets the coverage, the high school kids in our area, like the Fort Wayne area. It has a lot to do with, you and all the things that you do, and so appreciate all the coverage that you give, not just Snider, but everybody in the area.
All right, buddy. Appreciate it. Good luck on Friday.
You too. Thanks.
That was Coach Kurt Tippmann, Snider Panthers, joining us here this evening on the Coaches Show. We're going to take a break, come back. We're talking Bishop Luers football when we come back. Head coach Kyle Lindsey as the Knights go after state championship number 12 on Saturday morning against North Posey. We'll talk about it when we come back here on the High School Coaches Show, 1380 The Fan, 100.9 FM.
Many of you are aware of Hoopie Insurance Services loyalty and support for local sports and youth leagues. But did you realize the Hoopie commitment to sports includes a turfed indoor practice facility? Tucked away off Stellhorn Road between Maple Crest and Lehmeyer is the Hoopie Fieldhouse, a great facility for indoor practices when Mother Nature is having a bad day. With 6,500 square feet of artificial surface, it's perfect for baseball, softball, soccer, and football. For a team, a league, or even a small group, the Hoopie Fieldhouse is available at just $50 an hour. Pitching, fielding, hitting. And it's the ideal spot when you can't take a chance on the weather, like tryouts or pregame prep. Youth football, little leagues, youth soccer. The Hoopie Fieldhouse can be your indoor practice home. Join now at just $50 an hour and get your times booked before it's too late. The Hoopie Fieldhouse, owned and managed by Hoopie Insurance Services. Get info and book times at hoopiefieldhouse.com. That's Hoopie, H-U-P-E, Fieldhouse.com.
What is your healing power? Maybe your healing power is helping veterans with PTSD, traumatic brain injuries, depression, anxiety, or loneliness. Is your healing power a simple, heartfelt letter or being a volunteer? It is estimated that over 500,000 current warfighters will return from service diagnosed with PTSD, and 22 veterans will commit suicide every day. Our veterans have paid the ultimate sacrifice for our country. At healvets.org, you can find out more about the healing power of pen pals, volunteers, therapy kits, and more. Discover your healing power at healvets.org. Help Heal Veterans, together with you, has been helping one recovering veteran at a time. We are helping veterans heal together. What is your healing power? To find out about your power, visit healvets.org. This PSA is sponsored by Help Heal Veterans.
You're listening to the Hoopie Fieldhouse High School Coaches Show on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.
Welcome back, everyone. Special Tuesday edition of the High School Coaches Show. Coming up at the top of the hour, pregame show from Hawaii, as it's the Purdue Boilermakers Tennessee Volunteers tonight. Purdue fresh off a win over Gonzaga last night. They'll see if they can continue their run of wins over ranked teams and their run of consecutive wins in the non-conference against Tennessee tonight. So, again, pregame show starts top of the hour. Tip-off closer to about 8 o'clock tonight. It'll be opening kickoff at 11 a.m. on Saturday between the Bishop Luers Knights and North Posey. Head coach of the Bishop Luers Knights, Coach Kyle Lindsey, on with us right now. Evening, Coach.
Evening, Justin. Thanks for having me once again.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you on and take us through last week, because LCC came in, everybody thought, hey, this is a complete team coming in, really going to challenge Bishop Luers, and man, being able to shut them out for 3 quarters plus and win that in convincing fashion, very impressive. How'd you guys do it?
We did it behind a defense that's been playing at an elite level for the better part of 3 months. A lot of confidence on that side of the ball. And then I thought offensively, we probably played our most complete game, at least in a couple months, at least since postseason started. We ran the ball well between the tackles. They took away our short game, took away our screen game. It was a little slow trudging at first. I think both teams had 3 possessions in the first half. But we played some ball control in the first half. You know, the thing about this team is we feel comfortable in low-scoring games. We felt comfortable in tight games in the second half. I don't think anybody came in when we were up 7-0 at halftime with doubt in their mind that we were the better team and that we were going to win. And then we made some plays. Cohen had a whale of the second half, receivers, offensive line. Gio, Mickey, I mean, everybody on the offensive side stepped up. We were able to throw the ball downfield vertically. Zay and Jalen White out wide made some big-time catches, which is really awesome because and rewarding for them because they really get after it in blocking. And yeah, we played really, really, really good championship level football on both sides of the ball. We addressed some of our deficiencies from the regional championship in our kicking game. We hit all of our extra points. That PAT team looked good once again. But just like any other week, we couldn't put the entire package together. We gave up 2 big returns to our side of the field on the kickoff team and gave them some short fields there in the first half and the second half, in fact. But our defense, they've been the story for the better part of, once again, 3 months with this team. And they just play physical. They play fast. They communicate. They get after it. They're very disruptive up front. And, that energy really carries over to the bench and to the rest of our team.
Coach, when you look at that defense, I mean, it doesn't really have a set base. It's able to move in a lot of different formations and a lot of versatility with guys that can move around. I mean, how much has that been important in the ability of this defense to adapt over the course of the season and dominate when need to be?
Yeah, that's huge. Adaptability, having versatility. To be able to do that, you got to have kids that can play multiple positions. And here at Bishop Luers, I think that's one of the strengths of our program year in and year out is we find ways to move kids around to get them to understand different positions. We try to utilize their talents in many different facets. For instance, Isaac Zay, on the defense, he's a wide receiver. He's a punter. I think he plays both of those positions at an all-state level for 2A, but an all-conference level for that matter. But on the defensive side, he's lined up at free safety, strong safety, outside backer. I believe there's 1 week we had a couple packages where he was spying a quarterback from the middle. This past few weeks, he's been coming off the edge. As a pass rusher in particular last week, covering backs out of the backfield. There was 2 plays in the first quarter just really stuck out to me. Just how darn good this kid is. He buckled a tackle coming off the pass rush, put him on his butt. He noticed the back leaking out on the wheel route, opened his hips up and ran with the back. It required a absolute perfect pass from the quarterback to be completed, and it was overthrown a bit because of Isaac's length. And then, I believe a few plays earlier, he set the edge, was again at the end position, had a pulling guard coming at him. He buckled him, put him on his butt. And then the mid played at the line of scrimmage. That kind of versatility allows Coach Bradley to do quite a bit with the defense. Mickey Daring's another one. He's a kid who plays, he spent the majority of the last 3 years playing middle linebacker and playing a heck of a job at it. He's been playing defensive tackle. This year he's been primarily a middle linebacker. And last week against spread offense, he was at his backer position. He was all over the place. Him and Finn Sachs in the middle were just real fun to watch those two play together. But against heavier sets and down and distance, depending on what we're looking at, he's very comfortable putting his hand in the dirt and getting after it like he has for the last 3 years as a defensive tackle. But that versatility is it's key. It's huge. And then having guys like Ben Kirchhoff, a defensive lineman, come in and being able to play 3 or 4 different positions on the defensive front. A guy like Jalen White, who when he's on the field at corner, he might be the best defensive back we have. He just hasn't, quite frankly, has been needed for that. So we've been utilizing his talents more on the offensive side. We haven't had to spell him offensively at receiver. There's the depth of this defense is very good, and the versatility is outstanding. That's a big reason why we're here playing for a state championship on Saturday.
Versatility has been important, but also key contributions from underclassmen. You mentioned a couple of those guys in the secondary. At certain points, you have 4 underclassmen in your secondary with 2 corners and 2 safeties, 3 sophomores and a junior and Jalen White. You have a couple sophomores up front offensively that have been big as well. So we talk so much about the senior class for good reason. But, man, you're not in the position you are without some key contributions from some underclassmen.
No, amen. I mean, we knew that heading in the season, the strength of our team was going to be on our defensive front and our box players on defense. It was going to be behind the skill returning guys, especially Mickey, Gio, and Zay on the offensive side. We knew it was going to take some time for the offensive line to gel, and it's a young group. There's a lot of potential. I think the future is looking pretty solid right now, but. They've been steadily improving week in and week out, and we got some good depth kids as well that have helped fill in the gaps. From our senior class, and Mason Peters and Dalton Bogdan have really done a good job of stepping in on the offensive line because it's been kind of a moving, a unit that's been moving. It hasn't been solid due to injuries and what have you over the last few months, but. Kids have stepped up in many, all the classes. This secondary is fun to watch. They fly to the ball, they tackle, they communicate. They play at a level as if this is not their first go around playing varsity football. There's some bright futures out there.
Coach, when you look at the challenge you guys have on Saturday morning, it's a North Posey team that is very physical up front. It's got a lot of seniors up front with that offensive line, 3 guys that have run for at or just less than 1,000 yards. When you talk about your defense and the challenges that it has answered so far this season, where does North Posey rank?
They're up there with as good as any we've seen in 2A. Certainly, they're physical. They're stout up front on the offensive and defensive lines. They've got playmakers in the backfield and on the perimeter on offense. Quarterback, it runs through the quarterback. He does a good job distributing the ball when they throw the ball. It's a team that wants to run the ball. They run the ball very well. They got the Galvin kid, a junior. He's a tremendous athlete on both sides of the ball. He plays safety, he plays running back, plays slot. They do a good job of moving him around and finding ways to get him the ball, depending on the situation. Defensively, that's probably where they're the strongest. They got a front 7 that's disruptive. They're hard to move. They're fast. They're physical. And then on the back end, they've got athletes. Their best athletes on offense are playing defense, and they fly around the field. As equally impressive as their physicality and their production. These guys, they play with a lot of heart. You could see that on film. They're all over the place, picking each other up. Plays a lot of energy, a lot of passion. They got a huge support system down there in Posey, and I think they kind of feed off the energy from their crowd, just based on the live feed that we were watching as a coaching staff last weekend at the semi-state level. We're going to have our hands full for sure.
Coach, final question for you. When you're with your team, when you're in the tunnel, and you guys have been through this before, and you've been with it as a coach, and obviously with Luers on the roster as well, do you know your guys are locked in that tunnel as you're ready to be introduced? Is it still a question, or do you know, hey, my guys are ready to play in this big moment?
I don't think there's any doubt in my mind, our coach's mind. This is it's a squirrely group of kids. It caused me a lot of stress throughout the year, but I think, quite frankly, Friday nights, game nights, that has been the least stress that I've had this entire fall season. These kids on game day, for that matter, they're good at practice. We practice pretty well. We've been focused in particular the last 3 weeks. We had a great practice today at the Plex. These kids dial in. They love playing the game. They love playing with each other. And I think a lot of them have mentality that they just want to go out there and they just want to knock someone on their butt across from them. And their focus, their energy has been consistent for 3 months. So I got no doubt that they're ready for the big stage. They've had a lot of close games this year, a lot of big games this year. It seems like the more physical, the better opponent, the better we played.
All right, buddy. Hey, appreciate the time. Thanks a lot. Good luck on Saturday. Have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see if Luers can bring home.
Podcasts by Federated Media.